Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Saints Insider post-game show. I'm Zach Ewing here from my home in South Louisiana. He's Jeff Duncan coming to you. He's a man of the world. He goes to all these unbelievable places. 1 minute he's in Nice. The next time it's Sicily. And now Jeff Duncan joining us live from Starkville, Mississippi, which may be the greatest of the three.
Yeah, this is obviously the home of Rod Walker, our colleague's alma mater, Mississippi State, who had I think they had a big home game against Tennessee yesterday here. I heard a lot of people, a lot of people talking about it, but I was able to find a walk-ons and watched the Saints game on the way back from my nephew's wedding, Zach, that I officiated. I didn't screw it up. I officiated his wedding yesterday. That's why I had to miss the game today, but I did watch it and ready to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the takeaway here is that the Saints must have gotten a blessing from a wedding officiant such as yourself in the past week, because they obviously exercised some of the demons from last week. They played so poorly in Seattle that, I mean, you just saw even the most optimistic fans jumping ship on this team. This week, it's weird because there are no moral victories in the NFL, Dunk, but like this is about the closest thing you could get. You're on the road at the Super Bowl favorite. Saints obviously played a lot better, even put a scare into the Bills, looked for a moment like they had taken the lead there in the fourth quarter. Ultimately, not quite enough.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I really thought they would come out and play a lot better this week. That usually tends to happen after you have a kind of a stinker like the Saints had last week. We saw the Falcons do the same thing today after their no-show performance in Carolina. But I think if you're a Saints fan, you come away with some really encouraging signs from today. We're seeing improvement in some areas that is what you're looking for from a team that's obviously in rebuilding mode and transition. You want to see parts of the team get better, especially with a new head coach and a new staff. And I thought we saw that today, and there were some bright spots too from some young players. So all in all, a step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think again, there's no such thing as a moral victory, but the season, I think, has gotten past the point where the playoffs are your goal now at 0-4. And so you just want to see some improvement. And we saw that. I mean, the Saints gave up touchdowns on the first two Buffalo drives, but then really kind of held Josh Allen in check, certainly for the rest of the first half and even into the second half a little bit. And we saw the Saints running game get going. We can talk about that. They ran for 189 yards. You saw Alvin Kamara have a good day, but also Kendre Miller and Spencer Rattler with his legs. You saw Rattler make a few plays. He also missed a few plays. We can talk about what to do with Rattler going forward. But I want to start with the running game. I thought the Saints, as we thought they would do, came out with an objective of running the ball against a bad Bills rushing defense, and they stuck with it all day long, I think, to their credit.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there. That was going to be the recipe for an upset if the Saints were going to be able to get it. They were going to have to control the clock, move the chains, keep that, that explosive offense off the field. And for the most part, they did a good job of that. They were, eating up some huge chunks on the ground. I think at one point they had 4 runs over 16 yards. Those are good runs in the NFL. Nothing, going the distance, but you'll take that all day. And I thought we saw Kendre Miller run with some physicality and explosiveness. And you mentioned Rattler. I thought he did a great job of avoiding some sacks, buying time, scrambling when he had to, and kind of keeping Buffalo's defense on their heels. Buffalo, that is an area of weakness, and I know they weren't playing without Ed Oliver and Milano today, so 2 of their key guys. But the Saints, by far the best performance we've seen this year on the ground, and that's going to have to continue if they're going to finally break into the win column.
Yeah, and this is a game of really frustrating missed opportunities for the Saints too. Pete Werner drops the easiest interception he'll ever have right in his breadbasket. Chris Rumph hit Josh Allen's wrist as he threw the ball. Ball flutters right to Pete Werner at the 20-yard line. Can't come up with it. Saints ended up with good field position anyway because they forced a punt from there. Then they go down inside the 5-yard line and run like a Philly special type play. But Chris Olave's pass is intercepted. Really good play by Buffalo on that one, I thought. to intercept. It wasn't a good pass from Olave, but a really good individual effort. So then there's that one. And then the second half, the apparent touchdown pass to Brandon Cooks that was overturned. A lot of just sort of, man, 3rd and 5, Cam Jordan nearly trips up Josh Allen, and then he goes and does a Josh Allen thing and rumbles for 27 yards. Like they're close, but sometimes when you're close, it's that much more frustrating.
Yeah, those are all plays that you'd like to have back. The one especially of Werner, I mean, at some point he's got to start making these plays, Zach. I mean, this is a guy that's as solid as the day is long as far as, knowing his assignment and being in the right place at the right time and a solid tackler. But he just never makes a play, and very rarely makes a play. And that one was probably as easy as you're ever going to get. It would have been huge for the Saints. The one thing I will say that I really liked today that I didn't see last week was the enthusiasm and effort. I mean, the Saints were dialed in today. I think they knew they had to be against a team as powerful as Buffalo, but I liked what I saw. I saw a lot of energy. That was all absent last week in Seattle, and the result was what it was. But they took it to Buffalo today, and just a few plays here or there, and that's always the loser's lament. But they were in this game and certainly threatened a really good Buffalo team. I think forced them to kind of kick it into high gear when I think they probably thought after the first 2 drives, this is going to be a walk in the park, and it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, for sure. You're watching the Saints Insider postgame show after the New Orleans Saints fall 31-19 to the Buffalo Bills. They're now 0-4 on the season. We will take your questions and comments live on the air here. We're hanging out with Jeff Duncan for about 10 more minutes before he has to start his drive back to New Orleans from wedding duties. And then we will be joined by our writers live from Orchard Park, New York, not Buffalo, but from Western New York there. Rod Walker, Matt Paris, Luke Johnson will all be joining us live from the stadium there. Jeff, I want to ask you the Spencer Rattler question because he did play well today in some facets. He used his legs more, career high 49 rushing yards. He also missed some throws, like the throw to Cooks was low in the end zone. It was not the easiest throw in the world, but a good throw there probably means a go-ahead touchdown. He also had another throw, I think, to Shaheed that was behind him in the first, or maybe it was to Olave in the first half, where Olave drops the pass. But again, you could kind of blame Rattler too. And the bottom line is he's now 0-10 as an NFL starter. That is obviously not all his fault, but we've talked about this for a couple weeks now. That number starts to build and build and build against him. What do you do with him going forward? I mean, I think he gets this homestand coming up, right?
Yeah, look, I think he's playing well enough to keep the job, but I think if it continues, they're going to have to consider at least seeing what they have in Tyler Shuck, right? If this season starts to get away, they're already doing this at some other positions. We're seeing so many young players get on the field. It makes sense to also, if the season's lost, if you're not going to be competitive, you might as well see what you have in Tyler Shuck if your starting quarterback can't be a winner in any facet. And I think the thing that holds Rattler back right now is his accuracy. He's just a little inaccurate at key moments, especially when he's trying to fit into tight windows like that one to Cooks, where he's just not anticipating quite quickly enough. And I don't think that's something we're going to see improve much, because that's been the knock on Rattler all the way back through college, is he's just not quite quick enough on his reads to get the ball out in an anticipatory mode. Therefore, the ball ends up behind the receiver, and those inaccurate passes often lead to incompletions like we saw, or worse, a batted ball or a tip ball that ends up as an interception. So that was a unfortunate play for him, because, man, if they get a touchdown right there, and Cooks almost caught that thing. That was amazing effort. They really would have had Buffalo on their heels and had the momentum settling for a field goal. They really never recovered once they did that.
Yeah, I think you're right on all counts there. Like Buffalo, look, even if the Saints take the lead there, you're looking at Josh Allen at home. We've seen it 100 times. He's probably going to go find a way to make plays and win the game. But you would have liked to see that situation. Put a little pressure on Buffalo. Maybe you get a crazy bounce or something, and you could finish off what would have been. I mean, we talked about it historically, mathematically, one of the top 50 or so upsets in NFL history. And it was a reality there, at least a reality to dream about for, a good hour there in the second half, where you think maybe the Saints could get this done. Ultimately, they can't. But I do think there's signs of improvement. Let's talk about the defense before we let you go, Jeff. And we mentioned a little bit the missed opportunities. Pete Werner not only dropping that pick, he also got his ankles broken by Josh Allen on that long third down run in the fourth quarter. Listen, Pete Werner, a lot of people will have that happen to him with Josh Allen. Right. But I thought in general, especially after the first two drives, this defense really settled in and frustrated a really high-powered offense.
Yeah, made some big plays, big fourth down stop that was critical in the game that kind of got the momentum going, and got after Josh Allen a little bit in the pocket, pressured him more than we've seen. And you haven't even mentioned Jonas Sanker, but to me, he was the star of the game. Just a tremendous interception, a couple of big pass breakups, really physical. When they drafted him, Zach, I was a little, I just questioned that draft at that time, a third-round pick on a safety. I'm not questioning it now. This guy looks like a real find in the third round. I didn't know he had that center field kind of pursuit and range that he has, but he looked like the best player in the secondary today, and he's a rookie. So that is certainly a silver lining with the way he played. As banged up as they are in certain positions, that's one you feel pretty good about right now.
Yeah, and we'll get to the injuries and things like that too. Cesar Ruiz injured, and I know the Saints O-line, as that comment said, is a little bit of a mess. But Jeff, before we let you go, your overall thoughts just on the Saints. Let's say their performance on this road swing. We knew going to Seattle, turning around and going to Buffalo, you're probably looking at 0-2. It would have taken a big upset to avoid that, and the Saints do indeed go 0-2. They're now 0-4. The schedule gets much lighter from here on out. Where do you think we are with this young coaching staff and a pretty young roster?
Well, I like the response today. Let's start there. They played a much cleaner game. The penalties that have hounded them in some of the first three games really were mostly eliminated today. They had some aggressiveness penalties, but the false starts and pre-snap penalties were virtually eliminated. That's a good sign. I like the game plan that was employed by Kellen Moore. So we're seeing some improvement in some key areas. And I like the energy and effort most of all. That's got to be, standard for the rest of the season. This team isn't talented enough, Zach, to just walk out and beat a team and turn the switch on, kind of the way Buffalo did today. You could kind of see them kick it in when they had to. They're good enough to do that. The Saints aren't. Got a big game coming up against the Giants, who I think, did they end up winning the game today, Zach?
The Giants won against the Chargers, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they catch them at a good time. Jackson Dart obviously will be coming in here. Unfortunate injury. It looks really serious for Malik Neighbors, former LSU star. I don't know if he'll be available or not. A lot of speculation on that could be a season-ending injury. But that's a game the Saints certainly can win and need to win, I think, just to get the monkey off their back, for Rattler to get the monkey off his back, get in the wing column, and get the dome kind of back to life a little bit. It was kind of dead the first couple of games. And then, go from there. But it starts next week in the dome against a Giants team that's certainly beatable and one that I think can a type of game where the Saints can kind of get going in the right direction after this brutal, kind of, for the most part, brutal early start.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Jeff, I know you need to get back on the highway and get home to New Orleans. If you see the statue of Rod Walker there in Starkville, please stop and take a photo with it. We need a selfie.
Well, outside this walk-ons, they do have Mississippi State cornhole games going on. I'm going to try and get over there and steal a beanbag and bring it back for Rod. So if you don't see me, it's because I've been apprehended by the Starkville authorities trying to get this cornhole beanbag.
Yeah, listen, cornhole theft in Stark Vegas is akin to jaywalking in Las Vegas. It's the one place in the U.S. you can't get away with it. So, all right, Jeff, thank you for stopping by and joining us on what otherwise was a day off for you.
All right, we'll see you when I get back, Zach. Take care, buddy.
All right. He's Jeff Duncan joining us live from the car in Starkville. As I said, we will be joined later by our crew up there in Buffalo, Rod Walker, Matthew Paris, Luke Johnson, all going to hop on this post-game stream here, hopefully in the next 15 to 20 minutes. But I'm going to hang out with you for a little while first. And you never know. Sometimes there's technical problems, things like that. Guys can't find a place to call, but we will try to get them on. I want to go through some of these comments. I've been showing them as we've gone on, but a couple of them stuck out. Like Elijah says, why are we putting so much expectations on a rebuilding team? Make it make sense. I'm not. What expectation? They're 0-4, man. What expectations do we have on them? I think the expectation, and a fair expectation, was to be competitive. And the Saints met that today. Excuse me. They met that expectation today. They certainly did not meet it last week. And I think that's fair. I don't think we're expecting them to be a playoff team. I don't think we're expecting them to be a 500 team. I would expect a few wins. You certainly can't go 0-17 or 2-15 or whatever. You got to win some games at some point. But I don't think the expectation on this road trip was to come out with a win. Look, they had chances at the end of the game against both the Cardinals and the 49ers to win those games. Sooner or later, you're going to make a play at the end of one of these games and make it. Today wasn't quite that situation. You didn't ever quite get to that, although you could argue if Brandon Cooks catches that touchdown, if Rattler makes a better throw there midway through the fourth quarter, we might have gotten to the point where the Saints would have a chance to win the game at the end. Didn't quite get there today, but obviously you're playing the Super Bowl favorites at their place. That's not a realistic expectation. The outlier in all of this is week 3. And if it's an outlier, that's fine. If the Saints had a bad day, and they obviously had a special teams disaster in the first quarter last Sunday, and things snowballed from there. If that's the outlier, that's fine. That happens to young teams. It frankly happens to bad teams. Sometimes you just get snowed over. That can't be a regular occurrence. And the Saints showed today, at least, that it was not going to happen 2 weeks in a row. Now they come home. I do want to take a look at the Saints' upcoming schedule, because I think you start to see some possibilities for wins now. Home against the New York Giants. I know the Giants had a big win today against the Chargers, but it's a rookie quarterback. It's in your place. There's no reason you can't at least compete to win that game. Same thing the following week. Afternoon kickoff against the New England Patriots in the Dome. That's New England beat Carolina today, beat them like a drum, but they've lost some. I mean, they lost to Pittsburgh, turned the ball over a bunch of times last week, barely won in Miami a couple weeks ago. That's a team, if the Saints play well, they can beat that team. Not saying I'm predicting them to go 2-0 in this homestand, but these are opportunities for wins much more clear than at Seattle or at Buffalo, or even home against San Francisco, who looks like they're the favorites in the NFC West. Then week 7 will be at Chicago. For the Saints, and that's, Chicago's been up and down, and it's a road game. Again, not picking the Saints to win, but they're going to have an opportunity. Week 8, home against the Buccaneers. Bucs are the NFC South favorites. Tough one. Same thing the next week, week 9, at the Rams. Tough one. But then you're at Carolina, week 10. Go into the bye week, then come out of the bye week at home against Atlanta, at Miami. Later in the season, home games against Carolina and the Jets, and road games at Tennessee and Atlanta. Those are all games where if the Saints play well, they're going to have a chance at the end of the game. Now, they have to play well. This team's not good enough, as Jeff said, to get by without playing well, with just flipping the switch and saying, hey, let's just go win an NFL game. That's not going to happen with this team. But they are good enough, if they play well, as they did today, to have chances at the end of those games. And that's why I think maybe some brighter days ahead. But for now, it's 0-4. For now, it's disappointment, some missed opportunities. Not great. Northern Saint, going back on some of the comments, he says it's time to give Tyler Shuck a shot. By the way, what's up? This is 2 straight weeks, because home games, I'm in the Superdome. I don't hear the broadcast live, and I sometimes will fast forward through plays or watch the shortened game on NFL Plus to rewatch it. But this is 2 straight games watching the broadcast for me, and both broadcast crews, I have to, maybe it was the same broadcast crew. I don't know. I don't pay that much attention, but they're calling him Tyler Shook, and I'm pretty sure it's Tyler Shuck. That's everything we've been told. So I don't understand where Tyler Shook is coming from, but I could see where if Tyler Shuck struggles, that becomes kind of a nickname for him. I don't know what's up with that. But to your point, Northern Saint, I don't know if it's time yet. I wouldn't hate it if you give Tyler Shuck a chance, but like Spencer Rattler is not the one losing you these games. He has missed on some throws, sure. He's also eliminated a lot of the mistakes that he had last year. He's only turned the ball over, I think, once all year. Did they count that last play as a turnover today, the fourth down play? He did fumble the ball. It was fourth down anyway. I don't know who came up with the ball. The Saints did. So it was not, yeah, it was recovered by Eric McCoy. So that wasn't a turnover either. I mean, he's had a couple of those. But he's not the reason you're losing the games. He's kept you in 3 of the 4 games. I say you give him a shot against the Giants, probably against the Patriots too. Let's see how it goes. If you get to 0-6, then I'm most certainly on board. Give Tyler Shuck the start in Chicago. Maybe even if you lose next week and don't look good, maybe it's time for Tyler Shuck against New England in week 6. I wouldn't be against that. But for right now, I'm not there yet. Before the season, I kind of looked at this as, if they're 0-4, it's time to go to Tyler Shuck. But I think Spencer Rattler has played well enough to kind of surpass that expectation. I think he should stick. I know there's people who are going to disagree. I know Jim Derry, who joins us on the post-game shows at home, he already texted me. He disagrees. He thinks it's time for Tyler as well. I'm not quite there yet. Looking back through some of these comments. Kendall, you saying not looking good with LSU. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Is that a Garrett Nussmeier reference? Forgot the bad pass to Cooks in the end zone. Just think how he wasn't wide open. I mean, that ball had to go through 2 defenders, and Rattler got it through the 2 defenders to get it to Cooks, who was by himself beyond those defenders. But it wasn't a good pass. Wasn't a good pass. And Kendall says he did the same thing with Olave last week, 2 weeks ago. But yes, 2 weeks ago against the 49ers, that one to me was worse because there was no, I've got to thread this ball anywhere. There was not, just loft that sucker up and Olave probably makes the catch. Gotta fire. My favorite thing about football is how the QB is the only player to blame. Hey, we're going to talk a lot about the QB, but it's a good comment because I don't think Rattler is the reason they're losing these games. Okay. He may not be capable of carrying them to victories, but he's not the reason they're losing. Okay. Pete Werner dropping an interception is the reason they're losing. Josh Allen just being MVP type talent is the reason they're losing. The Bills making just really good defensive adjustment and covering up that Philly special play and getting the interception from Cade Bishop. That's the reason you're losing. Like, the Bills had guys who were making plays. The Saints didn't. Jonas Senker had the interception. He did have another couple of pass breakups. He looked really good. I agree with Jeff on that. But yeah, it's not just Spencer Rattler. Like the O-line, shaky, did well in the run game today. We need to talk about Kendra Miller. He ran the ball really well. He had the early touchdown. So I think there are some positive signs. You guys got to stop with the Kellen Moore stuff. Effort appeared to be there. Moore ain't the guy. Gotta Fire also says Moore ain't the guy. After okay, you're pushing back against Northern Saint. Yeah, it's been 4 games, Northern Saint. It's been 4 games, man. What do we do? we can't be firing coaches after 4 games. It's a young team. It's a young roster. We all expected this team to struggle, or at least most of us did, and they're struggling. That's a fair expectation. So it's going to be okay. Godfire says Shuck panics at any pressure. Never should have been a 2nd-round pick. Remains to be seen. We're not ready to say that yet. I think the Saints had a pretty good draft from the guys who have gotten on the field. I think Kelvin Banks looks good. We've talked about Jonas Sanker looks good. Vernon Broughton was starting before he got injured. Trying to think later on. Fadil Diggs has gotten elevated to the active roster a couple times and gotten some snaps. Like they've had some. I think they had some decent picks in there. We'll see about Shuck. I mean, obviously that draft is pretty much make or break on Kelvin Banks, number 9 pick. You got to hit on that one, and then Tyler Shuck. If you hit on those 2 picks, it's a great draft. If not, it's not a great draft. And I think it's obviously too early to grade Shuck yet. It hasn't even been out there in a regular season game. Ransom says great wide receivers bail out QBs that hit their hands. Yeah, I think especially the Olave had a bad first half. Olave had the one, the ball's slightly behind him. He got his hands on it. You got to catch that. He also had one in the first half where he kind of had the ball. It would have been a nice catch to toe tap in bounds, but he bobbled it on the way out of bounds. And we see that play made in the NFL every week. if you watch NFL highlights, if you just watch red zone or something, like you see that play made every week by wide receivers. So Chris Olave, if you're a wide receiver one, got to tap those toes and hang on to the ball. He didn't do it. He had a better second half, had the touchdown. So I don't. This is not to bury Chris Olave, but yeah, there's some problems with the wide receivers though. Kendall says Rattler's a game manager. Stop expecting anything else. I think that's probably right. Like, he's not losing the game for you. The roster around him is just not good enough to go win it, and he's not going to carry you to a lot of victories. I liked what he did with his legs today. But it's, like Mitch says, he isn't the reason the Saints, I assume you mean the Saints are losing, but the lack of his consistent accuracy, why most don't view him as the future. I'm right there with you, Mitch. I don't think he's a long-term future for you or answer for you at quarterback. You can't, I just don't think so. From what we saw last year, from what we saw this year, 10 starts now, all sorts of different situations. The only common denominator is the Saints have lost all 10 games. I'm just not ready to go to Shuck just yet. I'm giving Rattler a couple more starts. Let's see where it goes. But we will see. John says, thought we played good, not enough to win. Yeah, it's the Bills. David's right there, played the number one team in the NFL, mostly to the end. Not quite. They were taking knees at the end with a 12-point lead, but cover the spread. Cover the spread. A lot of people thought the Saints would get killed. Those 15, anywhere between a 14.5, 15.5 point spread, they lose by 12. So the Saints did cover the spread. Kendall says if Rattler doesn't win the next 2 weeks, it's time to start Shuck. I'm a little torn on, Kendall, is what if they go like 1-1, but they're just not that inspiring, and it's 1-5, and you're clearly done as far as playoffs go, and Rattler's just kind of plodding along. Like, that would be the one where you go, okay, he got his win. Maybe it's time to go to Shuck at this point. That's where I would be on the fence. If they lose both, I'm certainly on let's switch to Shuck. If they win both and Rattler's playing well, or even if they win one and he's playing well, I think he probably keeps the job maybe through October, like you said. But that's where I'd be on the fences. Let's say they get a win, but he's still obviously not kind of producing to the point you want. Maybe it's time to give Tyler Shuck a chance in Chicago then. Saint for Life says the Saints run defense sucks. Yeah, it wasn't good. It was not good. James Cook ran for a whole bunch of yards. What did he finish up with? I think he was over 100, right? Yeah, 117 yards on 22 carries. Add in Josh Allen. And even though the Saints ran for 189 yards, Buffalo ran for 165 yards. So you didn't have much of an advantage there. I thought the Bills kind of strangely got away from the run defense, or the running game, on offense there for a while. Like, that was pretty iffy play calling by them in the second quarter there and early, and then even in the third quarter a little bit. Like, they came out to start the second half, and you saw James Cook getting the carries again, boom, 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 go down the field. And that's when Josh Allen was getting those downfield completions to Keon Coleman, and Khalil Shakir obviously had the big one early. But yeah, I thought it was weird that Buffalo went away from the run, and that really helped the Saints. David says, we need to learn how to win. Youngster, fake news. What's the real news, man? Did the Saints win in your newspaper? Not sure what you're talking about. Michael simply breaks down to good teams score TDs and bad teams kick field goals. Yeah, I mean, look, the red zone has been an issue for Spencer Rattler for his whole career. That's not to say he's abysmal. He had the touchdown pass to Chris Olave today. He's done it before, but he has struggled in that situation. And we saw it at the end of the first half. I think that's why Kellen Moore or Nussmeier, whoever it was, draws up the trick play, and they try to wrinkle. Spencer Rattler's a good athlete. You try to get him out as the receiver on that play. Like, it could have worked. I like the play call. I really like the play call. But that's why you're doing it, because you saw the play before. They ran a fade, I think, to Rashid Shaheed in the corner of the end zone, and Rattler missed him. We've seen that before. We saw it in the fourth quarter, the throw to Cooks. Okay, but not good enough in that situation. Like, it's got to be just a little bit better, and that's a big touchdown. And yeah, Josh Allen, on the other hand, Bill scored pretty much every time they got down there, whether through his arms or through his legs. Gotta fire. If Shuck struggles badly, you can't go back to Rattler either. I mean, nothing's stopping you from going back to Rattler. If Shuck's just crazy bad for a month, you can go back to Rattler and try to save some face and win some games. I'm not sure you would, but you could. I think honestly, if you go to Shuck, if Rattler's 1-5, 1-6, whatever it is, and you say, okay, this is it, we're going to Tyler Shuck. If you go to Shuck and then he struggles mightily, as you're saying, it doesn't really matter how you finish out the season if you stick with Shuck or go to Rattler. The nice thing about that situation would be you have your answer as to whether the quarterback of the future is on this roster. You want that answer one way or the other, and you need to play Tyler Shuck to get it. If Shuck struggles and the answer is no, you don't have your quarterback of the future on the roster, then you know you need to go draft one. And the Saints are likely going to have another top 10, if not top 5 pick in next year's draft. And I think if the draft was right now, the Saints would have the number 2 pick. I think the Jets were at number 1. The Jets play tomorrow night, so we're not even there yet. Like it's a little early to be doing that, but the Saints are going to have a high pick. And if you know that your quarterback of the future is not on this roster, then you know that's what you've got to go get with that draft pick, is your quarterback of the future. But if Shuck plays well enough to make you wonder, then now it's a little bit tougher decision. So I wouldn't say it's the worst thing in the world if Shuck answers that question one way or the other, because I think we know with Rattler, he's probably not the guy long-term. He's been fine. He's been competitive. I think he's a fine enough backup. If a guy got hurt and you had to turn to Rattler for a couple of games, I'm okay with that. He's not, again, on a good roster, he's at the point where he's not going to go lose you games. He would be fine. He's an NFL player. I just don't think he's your quarterback of the future. Let's see. Michael says, I also didn't like how Kamara looked. What was wrong with it? He looked pretty good to me. 70 yards. I mean, he's not quite as explosive as he once was. He's not making as many guys miss. Still an effective player. Ransom says, do not waste a top pick on a QB. What would you take another? I mean, yeah, they need as many O-linemen as they can get. But look, if you've got a top 5 pick, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in college football right now. And you think that one of them is your guy, whether that's, a lot of the guys from the beginning of the year have not looked as good. But if that's John Mateer or that's Lenoris Sellers or it's DJ Lagway, who I know, don't laugh. I know he's looked bad so far, but sometimes that doesn't always translate to the pros. Drew Aller, whoever, Dante Moore at Oregon. Is he even draft eligible? I don't know. But whoever it is, if you think the guy's there, that's exactly what you do with the top pick. That's not wasting a pick at all. John says if Saints continue to show improvement, should have a decent 2026. Again, it's all about the quarterback, in my opinion. I think Kellen Moore can coach. I think he showed that today in some ways. He's got to get a quarterback. We've got to answer that question before we can say how they're going to be in 2026. Lonnie says he's on team Tyler for next week. Start Tyler Shuck. I'm just not quite there yet. I don't know. I'm obviously, the amount of practice we see is basically just warming up. So we're not sure how Shuck has looked in practice or anything. I'm just not quite there yet. We'll see what the Saints want to do. Ransom says don't waste a top pick on a QB this year. When else are you going to have a top 5 pick? I mean, maybe they would have one the next year too, but you just don't know. Quincy Riley needs to start remainder of year. I agree, Lance. I think you just start those young guys, man. Riley's. I didn't mention him earlier talking about the draft picks. He's popped a couple of times. I think he could be a player. Jonas Sanker looks good. You've had some injuries in that secondary. Justin Reed left today for a little while. Kool-Aid McKinstry is struggling. He's going up against top wide receivers from the other team. He's struggling a little bit, but let Sanker and let Riley go out there and kind of take their lumps and see who it is. How good was Peyton? He won his first 10 games. Hey, David, who was his quarterback? Was it Spencer Rattler? I think if you gave Kellen Moore Drew Brees, he'd probably not be 0-4 right now. Danny Stutzman, another one, hasn't played as much with the veteran linebackers you've got out there, but I like Stutzman. David. Oh, okay, David. I'm sorry, you meant Peyton Manning. I thought you meant Sean Payton. Yeah, Peyton Manning struggled. you're right. And also Troy Aikman struggled. So yeah, but Rattler, I think I agree with the comments that the accuracy is just not there, and that's not something that you typically find in your career. You either kind of got it or you don't. And without being really accurate, it is difficult to be a winning quarterback in this league. Again, I think he's fine. Lower tier starter, maybe top tier backup in this league. I just don't know that you're going to win anything big with the guy. And so if they do have a top 5 pick next year, I think a quarterback has to be at least heavily considered. Robert says, just because your team identifies as a rebuild team doesn't justify going 0-17. Have to show your team can win a game. Totally agree. You have to win a game. And now it's only been 4 games. It hasn't even been a quarter of the season. And that we're not on any sort of 0-17 watch yet. They've played, honestly, at least 3 of their toughest games so far, 3 of maybe 5 toughest games, if you count home for the Niners, at Seattle, at Buffalo. You still have a game at Tampa. You still have a game against the at the Rams. Those are probably in your top 5 toughest games. Outside of that, though, I'm not, there's no game on the schedule where I go, the Saints have no chance of winning that game, like I said today. So yeah, I don't we're certainly not on any sort of an 0-17 watch. There's no way. There's no way that we're there yet. Trying to find some injury updates to see if we can find anything on Cesar Ruiz, who was carted off the field, so that certainly doesn't look good. Turned his ankle bad in the first half. Don't see anything just yet. I know Justin Reed left the game. Not sure if he came back. Alontae Taylor briefly left the game. He did come back. So yeah, I mean, Kellen Moore didn't have an update on Cesar Ruiz. Did not have an update on Cesar Ruiz. He missed the second half. It's a right ankle injury. David says Rattler kept us in this game. The running game kept you in this game. I think Rattler was part of that. And he's sometimes changing plays at the line and those sort of things, but it was the running game. They ran the ball for 189 yards. That kept you in this game. That ate up some clock. That kept them moving. Spencer Rattler's final numbers, again, didn't make any mistakes. 18 of 27, 126 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. But it was sacked 3 times. But we're sitting here going, they had 109 passing yards on over 30 passing snaps when you count the sacks. If you count the sacks, they had 31 passing snaps and gained 109 yards. That's 3.5 yards per passing snap. That's not keeping you. I disagree. That's not keeping you in the game. All right. We are joined now from our guys from Buffalo. Let's bring on Rod Walker from the press box there at Highmark Stadium. He's getting hooked up. Rod, how are things there in Western New York?
It's going well, man. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, all right. Yeah, everything's going well. We just got back from the locker room, so yeah.
What are your big picture takeaways from today? A competitive loss for the Saints, but still 4th straight loss.
Yeah, I mean, this team is just not. I mean, they missed too many opportunities. I mean, that's been an ongoing theme this season. But credit to the Saints for bouncing back after last week, because one of the things that even DeMario said last week was like, "Hey, we can't let that. You can't let one loss turn into 2 losses." And he was basically just talking about don't let what happened in Seattle carry over to Buffalo. And I would say they did. I mean, they were competitive. If you had told me that the Saints were going to be in this game at halftime, I'd have been like, okay, you like their chances. And I mean, they did well for the most part. I mean, they're still just making too many, just too many little things they're not doing right. But they corrected the penalties. They only had 4 today. 3 of them were on special teams. So pre-snap penalties was a big concern for this team, and they fixed that. So I mean, you got to credit Kellen Moore for fixing some of the things that were wrong with this team.
Yeah, it's funny the way this game started. Buffalo goes right down the field, scores a touchdown, and the Saints have to call a timeout, I think, on their second snap to avoid a delay of game. And you're going, oh boy, here we go.
Right.
But I want to start with the running game, because that's how the Saints answered that. Is they eliminated those pre-snap penalties. The O-line was blocking well. Alvin Kamara looked good. Kendry Miller looked really good, ran hard. We saw Spencer Rattler get his legs involved. Like, if you can run for 180 plus yards, you're going to win games in the NFL.
Yeah, that was one of the things we talked about this week. We thought for the Saints to have any shot at winning this game, that's what they were going to have to do, and they tried to do it. And I think it helped having their line. First time all season we've seen that offensive line together with Trevor Penning in the mix. So that was one of the things that Alvin talked about. He thought that they had some good holes to run through. He liked that. What he saw in the O-line play.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so they were able to do that. What did you make of Rattler's performance? Did not throw for a lot of yards. I think 126 yards. He did have the one touchdown to Olave. He didn't make a great throw to Cooks on that play that was overturned. He did make plays with his legs. I mean, it was kind of one of those good enough to keep you in the game, not good enough to win you the game.
Yeah, because I thought the plays with his legs were like really good. I was really impressed with that today. But he still, like the Brandon Cooks pass, you throw that better. He catches it for sure. And there were a couple other throws I thought he just missed. Like, it's almost like the receivers are, I don't know if they're just faster than he's expecting, but a lot of his passes are just a little bit behind, and it's just enough to like cause an incompletion. I think once he gets past that and can correct it, I think he could be a really, really good quarterback. Right now, I think he's solid. I mean, he's not doing anything to really lose you games, but there's some plays that I think he can make that could, get this team maybe over the hump. And if it's a close game, you can look back at that play and say, oh, that's a play that helped us win this game.
Yeah. Speaking of, plays that decide games, Hakeem brings up the Philly special call at the end of the first half. I'm curious to know your take, Rod. I already said I was fine with the play call. I thought the Bills executed very well defensively there, but you've kind of struggled to punch the ball in that situation this year. They tried something different. Olave didn't throw a great pass. I mean, what did you think of that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't particularly like it. Well, and it's probably hindsight. If it worked, I'd be like, oh, that's we'd probably have a whole story on that play if it didn't work. But I mean, this team obviously needed to come away with some points there. You can't get that far at the end of the half and come away empty because it's just kind of it's not a dagger, but I mean, it's just a really big momentum swing in the game when you come up empty there. Alvin Kamara, I think he kind of mentioned that, hey, that's one we'd like to have back. Maybe go with something else there, but somebody, I think it was Juwan, he said he really liked the play call. And Eric McCoy, I think, said he really liked the play call. So I'm sure it looked good in practice. It worked well, and today it just didn't work. And Olave had some options on that play. Like, he didn't have to, because it's like he threw it like as soon as he got it. And Kellen Moore kind of talked about it. There's another receiver that's probably, and I have to go back and look at it, but there's another receiver that's, on the route too that maybe he could have thrown it to. But it just didn't pan out. And it was a big momentum shift in the game.
Yeah, I'm just going to real quick push back on Hakeem. Just run was working. QB was in rhythm. I mean, your previous two runs, I think, were 3 yards and 0 yards. You needed 5. Rattler had just missed Shaheed in the corner of the end zone. Like, I think you did need to get cute. That was my point. I think you did need to get cute to get a touchdown situation. Now, you don't want to turn it over, obviously.
Right. You don't want to turn it over. And I mean, I've never seen Olave throw a pass since he's been in the league. So I don't know if that's ideal. But I mean, again, if it didn't work, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But I think you desperately needed to come away with 3 points there, at least.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, on a couple more things before we let you go, Rod, on defense. Some of this was just Josh Allen being Josh Allen, man. Like, we saw him rumble off that 27-yard gain in the fourth quarter that really kind of helped Buffalo put this game away. Khalil Shakir made a big play in the first half. Like, you have to allow for the idea that Josh Allen's going to get some on you. How did you think the defense played overall?
I think if you had given me, I don't know where he finished with 254 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean,
I thought they played.
Yeah. I'm saying, I think if you had told me that before the game, I was like, okay, maybe the Saints, they may have a shot to win this game. They got to him twice in the first half, and this is a guy that doesn't get sacked a whole lot. He's only been sacked 4 times coming into this game. So I think for the most part, they did a decent job with him and kind of kept him in check, I guess. But I don't know. I didn't feel like Buffalo played their best game. But, I mean, I just thought they were a little kind of going through the motions, I guess. First 2 possessions, obviously, they looked really crisp. But I think they kind of maybe took their foot off the gas a little bit, but I think the Saints had a lot to do with that too. I mean, I think the defense played well. I thought Sanker played really well for a rookie, especially. So he's a guy that, when you talk about this draft class, he's going to be a guy that we'll be talking about, I think, for a while.
Yeah, I thought he played well too. Well, final thought, Rod. The Saints return home for back-to-back games against the Giants and the Patriots. We get Jackson Dart in the Dome next week, but no Malik Neighbors. He's out long term, it looks like. What are your thoughts on where this team is after a losing road trip, but also one that we went in knowing was a very difficult road trip?
Yeah. I mean, the locker room was really it went down at all. I mean, these guys are upbeat and they're hanging in there. And I think next week is, if they don't win next week, I mean, I think you probably get a little more, you get concerned if they can't beat the Giants at home. But the Giants did get a win today with Jackson Dart. Saints are only winless team left in the NFC. So next week, the next 2 weeks are going to be really pivotal for this team. I mean, they have to win one of those two games, and ideally they win both of those games. I mean, because at some point, the mood will change at some point, especially if you can't beat those two teams at home. And they haven't won. They've lost what? The losing streak's at 8 in a row now. The last win was against the Giants, and now they get a chance to play them again. So
that'll be interesting. If you can't get that one, I think the narrative changes. But we'll let Rod get to writing. You can read his column at NOLA.com/Saints. Thanks, Rod.
Thanks.
Take Rod off and bring in Matthew Paris, joining us from the hallway there at Highmark Stadium. Matt, your big picture thoughts on the Saints' 31-19 loss?
Yeah, there are no moral victories, but I thought this was an important response for Kellen Moore specifically. Like, after what we saw last week of his team looking unprepared, undisciplined, just how are they going to be? And, the lack of offensive penalties today was a great sign. I was really impressed by kind of the willingness to get away from his philosophy of, let's be this shotgun heavy team. We're going to push the tempo. They did tempo in spots, but it really seemed like, all right, the Bills are bad at stopping the run. Guess what? We're going to run the ball. And it actually worked. It felt like they made meaningful strides in a couple key areas. And so I thought it was an important game for him to have, because I think much of this season is going to be about kind of his coaching journey. And I thought it was kind of an important bounce back, even though they didn't win.
Yeah, I agree on that. I mean, I think the Saints couldn't have a repeat of last week as far as the effort goes, as far as the feeling afterward goes, and so that's obviously an improvement. You mentioned the running game. We got to see, this is really a Kendry Miller game. If the Saints win this game, I think that's a huge takeaway too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought all three runners looked really good. Kamara, Miller, and Spencer. I would throw him into that group. His legs kind of keep defenses on their toes. It really adds another layer to this offense, and I think it's a reason why they're effective rushing the way that they were today, is because they just have that threat of doing it.
Yeah, and that obviously included Spencer Rattler. It helps Spencer Rattler in the passing game. Now, having said that, he throws for just 126 yards. Takes 3 sacks, had some failures in the red zone, most notably a low throw to Brandon Cooks that was overturned into an incompletion on what could have given the Saints the lead. So how do you view Spencer Rattler? This is becoming such a polarizing thing. He's playing well enough to keep the Saints in these games, and yet he keeps losing them. It just seems like you could argue either way here.
Yeah, I think each game shows a competitive quarterback who's willing to do what he can, but what he can is only so much because he's limited physically. Like the low throw to Brandon Cooks of a better quarterback, like he can make that throw. Even there was a throw to Rashid Shaheed that it set up a 4th and 3, and Luke next to me was just like, man, lead him. Like, you could just lead him a little bit more, and it's probably a first down. Like, I do think Spencer Rattler costs his team some plays because just of his that he doesn't have every tool in the world. But that said, I think his mindset to this is he's keeping them in games, and I think he's he still has a lot of positive traits. I see why he was once like a number one quarterback recruit in the nation. Like it's he's a very impressive quarterback. Like the way he approaches it and stuff. It's just I also see that why he went in the 5th round. So it leads to a polarizing result, like you said.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think the margins are so fine in the NFL that the difference between a great quarterback like Josh Allen and a guy like Spencer Rattler who's fighting to just win a game, like it's some of the little things. On 3rd and 5, Josh Allen finds a way to make a play. He's leading Khalil Shakir. Yeah, and Shakir made that 43-yard touchdown pass almost all on his own. But it starts with a good throw that gets his momentum moving forward. And those are the little things. And we just see Josh Allen do those week in and week out. We see him do them today. And that ultimately is the difference. And I think, I don't know, it's an interesting comparison.
I mean, the reason why Josh Allen is an MVP is just look at the 2-play sequence. That was a 27-yard rush from, the scramble that he had that he, made multiple guys miss. He's so big physically that like he can just kind of, he's hard to bring down, and yet he's also like mobile enough to kind of get guys out of their shoes. And then the very next play, it's a 28-yard, like on the money throw to Dalton Kincaid and for a touchdown. Like it's find you a quarterback who can do both, and he does both. I was pretty impressed by the way that the Saints. It looked like they were in store for a long afternoon with their defense. Um, they kind of righted the ship a little bit. Now, part of it, I think, this is my problem with the Saints defense through 4 games now. It's when teams have had to have plays or like this is an oversimplification, but all right, let's get serious. They find the play that they need. Like they're doing a good job of limiting explosives in the aggregate, but they're not doing so in like the specifics of it. And I think it came back to haunt them, especially against a guy like Josh Allen, who's an MVP.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Matt, before we let you go, big picture, Saints come home for 2 winnable games. Don't know that they'll be favored in either game, but they are certainly winnable games. How much does the narrative for the rest of the season and really the direction the Saints go for the rest of the season depend on how they play in this homestand?
Yeah, I mean, for going the rest of the season, I don't know. In terms of like if they lose it, all right, they're going to be in contention for the number one pick. If they win one of them and only not both, all right, they're probably going to be in contention for like the number one pick or top 3 pick. Like, I don't think that is necessarily as important, but it's getting to Spencer Rattler versus Tyler Shuck time. Unfortunately, he's 0-10 now. He's competed well in some of these games, but it's how long can you keep doing this with the same result before you try something new? And those are the games specifically. Like he has to get at least one of those to at least buy himself some more time. And I think how he handles that, especially the Giants, they just lost Malik Neighbors for the year with an ACL. Like Jackson Dart had a win. They're coming off a big win, but that's still a team that you can beat. And I think it's going to be really important for him going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Matthew Paris, you can read his work on NOLA.com/Saints and in tomorrow's Times-Picayune. Thanks for joining, Matt.
Yep.
All right, and with that, we will bring on Luke Johnson, our other Times-Picayune beat writer live from Buffalo or Buffalo adjacent. Luke, how's it going?
Hey, not too bad, man.
Well, give us your big picture take on this one, a 31-19 loss to Buffalo. Saints obviously competitive against the Super Bowl favorites. Ultimately, it's another loss.
Yeah, it's that's really the only thing that matters in the end. A lot closer than most of us thought it would be, with the exception of me. It was 1 point off the score of my prediction. No, seriously, it was they played them tough today. But like kind of running out of ways to say they played them tough and yeah, they're surprisingly competitive, but they still lose. At the end of the day, it's all the Saints care about. It's all the fan base really cares about. And maybe there's like a section of the fan base who, perhaps correctly are okay with these results as long as they're seeing competitive stuff out of the team and they're positioning themselves to be, maybe looking at a very good draft pick next year. But I just have a hard time seeing 4 straight losses, even if you're more competitive than you think you're going to be, and feel anything good about where you are. And I think that there's the same sense in the Saints locker room.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at some point you got to win the games, right? And by the way, Luke had 31-20 as his prediction, and had the Saints just kick the extra point instead of going for 2. Might have nailed it. I had 31-17. So if you average our 2 picks and then you round up, I think we got this. Yeah,
That's our future formula for success. Yeah.
Right, we're rationalizing, but that's okay. I do think one really good sign, and this does include Spencer Rattler, as I said to Matt, but like the running game looked good, and I know Buffalo doesn't have a good run defense, but you have to at least be able to do that against bad run defenses, and the Saints I think showed a lot of good stuff in that running game today.
Yeah. Obviously Buffalo's playing this game without Ed Oliver. He's a very good penetrating defensive tackle, even if he's not like the run stuffer, like he's a disruptor. And they play without Matt Milano, their best linebacker. So the Saints took advantage of that. I mean, they played a lot more under center today than they have in the first 3 games of the season. Kendre Miller showed some really just great sparks. This is like kind of the stuff we've been waiting to see out of him, stuff we all anticipated seeing a couple of years ago. That 18-yard touchdown run in the first quarter was great. It was balance, it was power, it was acceleration. That's like everything that we thought we'd see out of Kendre Miller, and he had a couple nice runs like that today. I thought they found creative ways to use Alvin Kamara in the run game today. I think it was hit or miss from the offensive line. There's a few moments, Trevor Penning playing his first game today, where you're like, that did not look good. And then the next thing you know, you're looking up and they're running over left guard 4 straight plays, and they're getting 7-8 yards a pop. So I think pretty good first step for him. So like, there's a lot of stuff that you feel like you don't even have to squint. Like you can see it being the foundation of a really good offense. But like, yeah, I also want to see if they're going to be able to do it against a really nasty Giants front next week. Like if they can do it against that team, or if they're not going to be able to do it against that team, find a different way to win offensively, which I think is maybe what we're seeing a little bit out of Kellen Moore here, then you feel a little bit better. And the hope is that by the end of the year, regardless of what the record is, by the end of the year, you're feeling good about where they're at with Kellen Moore and the organization, and they'll get the rest figured out roster-wise.
Yeah, right. And that remains to be seen. We'll talk about what's coming up here in a minute. The other issue I think with the offense sometimes is these key plays. And I want to ask your opinion on the Philly special play. I mean, I'm of the opinion that it was a good play call. I know it's easy to have hindsight and say, how could they do that? I think they needed something down there, that you really need 7s and not 3s against Buffalo. And I know it didn't work out, but like the plays before that were not working out. It's 3rd and goal. You're trying to spark, and it just didn't work. But what was your opinion?
Did you read my Twitter before, my screed on Twitter before asking me this question? Because I hated it.
I did not actually. Okay. All right.
I hated everything about it. And I think I would have hated it if it would have worked, because like this team is not a team that can get cute. Okay. Like they were in a great position right there to really make this a football game, to take a lead, and even if they don't take a lead, they can get within 1 point, and they're about to get the ball back to start the second half. Like, and the thing that drives me nuts about it is that like there's absolutely no consistency to Kellen Moore's aggressive conservative leader. 4th down on the opening drive last week, aggressive, throw a bomb, doesn't work. 4th down on the next drive, aggressive, tush push, false start, doesn't work. Okay, we're down by 28, let's kick a field goal. It's like you come in today and it's like 3rd and goal. You got this great football team on the ropes. What are we going to do? Have the guy who's never thrown a pass in his football career throw a pass to the guy who's never caught a pass in his football career. With all of our 5'9" receivers lead blocking for this, what could possibly go wrong here? Like, I understand this play's worked 100 times. It worked in a Super Bowl, and it's really cool when it works out. But the chances of that play actually working, even if the look is good, are like so slim. Run the better play, the play that you're always usually typically running. If it doesn't work, kick the field goal, and then you start the second half of football. I hated it. I hated it in the moment. I hate it even more right now.
We can agree to disagree. I understand I'm on the losing side of this argument because the play didn't work. I think the Saints are in a position where sometimes they have to get cute. Not that they can't afford to. They can't afford not to, but it obviously did not work in that case. And so I just, the point is, if Rattler and this offense were better in the red zone, that kind of stuff would not be necessary. It's been an issue, and that leads me to another point I want to get your opinion on. And I see everybody fighting in the comments. I see Lonnie and Steffens in there and Hakeem and all these guys. I mean, you guys are it. Is Rattler the guy? He's 0-10 now. Like I feel a little bit bad for him because clearly that's not all his fault. But now we come to sort of the first point in the season that we all talked about, right? Like, where is this the point to turn to Tyler Shuck or not? Rattler's 0-4. He has shown some signs of improvement. Where are you at on this equation? Does he get this homestand to win a couple of games or what?
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if they turned to Shuck. And I don't know what the right call is there. I think Spencer's been good. It definitely a lot better than I think any of us expected. Especially what anybody nationally expected out of him. But like I don't know what, like, if he's capable of reaching a lot more than this, which is maybe a silly thing to say about a quarterback who's made 10 starts, and who probably needs some development, but he's very good at operating the offense right now. You can see the talent, but like you can also just see there's just so much stuff that the accuracy issues are really big. I don't want to hear about completion percentage because like I've watched it in every game this year where they've missed out on an opportunity for a big play, a game-changing type of play, maybe a play that would have won them a game if the ball was placed a little bit better. It happened today, twice. The ball to Brandon Cooks in the end zone, the crosser to Rashid Shaheed on 3rd and 10. If he leads Rashid Shaheed right there, he just puts the ball out in front of him. Shaheed's got 2 yards on the linebacker, 3 yards. He's going to outrun him to the sticks, but he has to stop to make the catch. He gets tackled a couple yards shy, and then they don't get it on 4th down. And the ball to Cooks in the end zone. Like, those are plays that change the game. I think he's good. I think he's going to have a long career in the NFL. I just don't know if he's ever going to be like the level of quarterback that you want to take you to to the heights of the NFL.
Yeah. Okay. We're a lot more aligned on that one. So that's good. We'll end with a bigger picture question here. I mean, like, going into this homestand now, I'm of the opinion that these 2 games are going to shape how the Saints approach the rest of the season. If you lose both of them, you're quite frankly on draft pick watch. You're certainly not making the playoffs from 0-6 or even anything close to it. And it's probably time to go see what you got with the young guys, including Tyler Shuck. On the other hand, if you win both of them, maybe you keep on keeping on and see what you have against you've got all your division games in front of you and everything else. And if it's somewhere in between, then we've got to have that argument. But this is a big homestand for me.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a hard time thinking about it because I think no matter what, they have to see Tyler Shuck. They have to see him this year. Yeah. Unless they are looking at what they see out of Spencer Rattler and thinking like maybe he's their guy, which like you and I don't feel, right? Maybe the Saints do feel that way, but like I think at some point like we have to see this year, like in a starting role where he's got multiple chances to go in there and make mistakes and learn from them. Got to see what Tyler Shuck can do, and you got to probably see more of it than you need to see with Spencer Rattler, unless it's just like a complete disaster and you're just like it's just not happening. So I don't know. I like if they win these next 2 games, is that even a good thing for the Saints? Like, I guess it is if like something really just like clicks with Spencer Rattler and he's just the guy. But it's just hard to say that's going to happen after what we've seen. We have a 10-game sample size with him. So it is going to be. I think these next 2 games they're going to tell like which direction they're going to ultimately take. But it's still hard to see like anything other than at some point it's going to be Shuck's job.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to let Luke go. You can read his work as well at NOLA.com. youtube.com/Saints. And Luke, we will see you soon. All right. Our thanks to Rod, Matt, and Luke for joining us from Buffalo. And of course, Jeff Duncan from Starkville. First time I don't think we've done an LSU Mississippi State postgame show. So it might be our first guest ever from Starkville on this show. So thanks to Dunk for that. And we're going to wrap things up. I know the discussion will continue in the comments, and that's great. You guys can keep doing that. I did want to look at a couple of them. God of Fire says, why are we calling Shuck young? He's a year older than Rattler. That is true. I guess that's important to remember, but he is young in terms of he's never thrown an NFL pass. So we need to, it's more like you have to see what you have in your draft because he's young in contract terms, right? Like he's signed for 4 more years. So let's see what he's got. But you're right. He's not young. Y'all funny jumping on Rattler. Cooks dropped that ball and Lance turns around and says, bad throw. Well, yeah, look, both things can be true. It was not a good throw, but Brandon Cooks, he may tell you himself, like, look, I had my hands on it. I should have caught it. So I think both things are true. The Saints can improve at quarterback and they can improve at wide receiver, right? I think both of those things are true. So yeah, the comments are going back and forth. We're going to get out of here. It's been more than an hour, but I appreciate all of the interaction and the passion. That is one of the great things about covering this team is the passion from Saints fans and Houdat Nation. So we certainly appreciate that. And also appreciate, again, Jeff Duncan, Rod Walker, Matthew Paris, Luke Johnson joining us live. You can read their work at NOLA.com/Saints. You can subscribe to the Saints Insider on YouTube. And we will be back with full podcasts on Wednesday and Friday this week, leading into the Giants game next week. I'm sure that Tyler Shuck versus Jackson Dart might come up a couple of times this week because I see those comments too. Yeah, Saints, it's not really fair to say they passed on Jackson Dart unless they passed on him at number 9. Nobody was taking him that high. They were not as aggressive as the Giants were in trading up to get him. So that's not quite the same thing as passing on him, but could they have done that themselves? Yeah, sure they could have. Maybe at the spot in their rebuild, they didn't want to give up the picks to do that. And they think Tyler Shuck and Jackson Dart are close enough to where it was worth hanging on to your picks and taking Shuck. I don't know. I'm not in Kellen Moore's head. I was not in those meeting rooms, but I don't think it's quite fair to say that they passed on Jackson Dart, but quite obviously we're going to have those comparisons this week and really for the next couple of years. Should the Saints have gone up to get Jackson Dart, let's see what he does. He played pretty well for the Giants today. I thought their defense played really well against the Chargers, and that's what Spencer Rattler and company will have to deal with next week. And Tyler Shuck's not even on the field yet, so it's really Jackson Dart versus Spencer Rattler right now, and we'll talk about that. So subscribe to the Saints Insider on YouTube. You can also find the audio-only versions on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And once again, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.